always take the opportunity, accept the challenge, don't back away from it, because with those challenges and opportunities, you're going to have lessons learned. And with those lessons, you're going to be able to grow and move forward.
This has been an amazing show, Chris. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
What an incredible way to bring people together, IRL, especially in this day and age that we talk about technology and AI. But I believe IRL and getting together in person creates trust and bonds that you can't replace on the internet.
It absolutely does. It's critical with the networking and connectivity that goes on here. You just can't replace it anywhere else.
Well, thank you. I think your story is pretty incredible. From starting, you shared, I think it was 1981, you were a security guard, is that correct? Can you take us through that story?
That's correct. I took a job at an apartment community during summer of my senior year. I started working there, got an opportunity to one day accidentally to do some leasing and leased 3 apartments on my first day.
Wow.
Never made it back to security, and 46 years later, here we are.
It's incredible. I think many people think people start at the top, but it is a lot of years of hard work and grinding it out and discovering your path. But I love that story of how it kind of was happen chance. You found your calling.
Absolutely.
Obviously, NAA for me has been very impactful. The amount of mentors and supporters and early believers in me before I even maybe fully believed in myself. I think of Cindy Clare, who pulled a chair out for me. I think of many of the people like Clark, who put in countless hours. Kayla Quint, up in the ranks. Is there someone who's been a great mentor, friend over the years to you that kind of supported you and got you more active in NAA?
Going back to a person who got me involved in the Apartment Association, her name's Lori Settle. She was also a boss of mine for a long time in the industry after getting me involved in the Apartment Association. But she's the one who encouraged me early on. Raise your hand, volunteer, take challenges as opportunities, and it will open doors and take you places. So that was a key to really getting going in the association.
I love that. And I think about it, NAA, we do great things at the national level, but we're also doing things at the local level. And when we talk about advocacy, we talk about education. I think many people sometimes think NAA, this is a one-time event. It's not, it's throughout the year. Can you take us through some of the importance of the year-long work?
Absolutely, and probably the most critical thing that NAA does by far is advocacy at the federal level in Washington, D.C. on behalf of our members around the country, because we really are the voice that takes up the issues with Congress and with the regulatory agencies in D.C. and all of the things that pop up on the federal level that impact the industry. NAA is out in front leading the charge for that.
Right, I love that. And I think one of the coolest things is there's so many opportunities to get involved, whether it's Lyceum, NAA Gives, which is giving back, and there's so many stories of people supporting others. I think one of the coolest things as I interview people, Chris, that I love is people's personal stories about how they maybe were homeless, or they had a tough time, and then they got a job in the apartment industry, and now they're able to give back to other residents and families and support them.
Absolutely. And we see that a lot, and we also work with programs like Entryway to help forge those opportunities for people that may be homeless that get an opportunity to live on a site and learn the maintenance side of the business and launch a very successful career and put a roof over their head. So those are great stories.
I think something else that many people don't understand is the amount of time it takes. You're not getting paid. You have your job at Willow Bridge as an EVP. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do maybe at Willow Bridge about hiring teams, leadership, how you think about that, also how that transcends and why it's so important the time you spend with NAA. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I'm Senior Vice President at Willow Bridge. I oversee property management operations for the Eastern U.S. Fortunately, I have a great team of vice presidents that work under me that run a lot of the day-to-day that have been within our culture for a number of years. So that really allows me the flexibility to do some of the volunteerism and work at NAA on behalf of the industry. So I would say to be able to do it, the first thing you got to do is be a good team builder and get the right support staff in place that you can depend on to keep the day-to-day operations running smoothly when you're doing advocacy work.
Love that. Well, something else I want to go into, which you shared with me over coffee, was someone who was impactful on your life and a business partner of yours, Mac Pogue. My son's name is Mac, but Mac, it sounds like you had told me was the founder of Lincoln, is that correct?
So Mac Pogue was the founder of Lincoln Property Company back in 1965.
Wow.
He launched the company as an apartment developer in the southwestern United States, and from 1965 until he disposition of the company in 2023, built it into a real estate empire that spanned not only multifamily but also commercial, industrial. Is really a global company.
Incredible. And that spun-off, Lincoln still lives on today in the commercial sense, is that correct?
That is correct. Due to some family ownership in
Sure.
the commercial company, they still retain the rights to use the name.
Yeah.
We were totally purchased separately. So with the Pogue Family Trust retaining the name,
Yep.
we had a year to change the name. We changed it to Willow Bridge, but that also ties back Mac Pogue in that the first property that Mac built in Dallas was called Willow Creek. So when they were rebranding, they were looking for something that spoke to the roots of the company and also spoke to the future. So the willow ties back to the roots, the bridge is the bridge to the future. So that's how we became Willow Bridge.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I'm glad, that's what I love uncovering. Tell me about, NAA's goals, right? To empower, obviously to improve the lives of people who live in these apartment communities. I think someone we talked about, which was really interesting, is I didn't realize how Jesse Miller, out in Hawaii in a Gray Star, the story about him and then bridging the gap to even a Japanese group.
To bring the Japanese Apartment Association over.
Yeah.
They are here at the conference this year for the second year in a row.
Amazing.
The NAA Executive Committee met with them last year in Las Vegas. We met with them again day before yesterday. We really had an exchange of how the industry works in Japan, how their management works, and then we gave a similar presentation, how those things work in the U.S. And we've agreed to collaborate further in the years ahead and see where that relationship can lead us.
Awesome. Something else I want to shout out, I think obviously with the advocacy in the spring, amazing event that I've personally benefited from. It's been a great time to go meet our congressmen and senators, but also the fall Assembly of Delegates.
Yes.
And every year it shifts cities. And obviously we were in Atlanta this past year, the last 2 years for
correct.
Alan King.
That's correct.
Then for you. But I think something interesting is I'm excited for Jeanette Cox. And you're going to be passing in something you instilled in me and told me about is passing the baton and knowing when your time and to support those who are coming up next. Could you share a little bit about that? A huge thing that more people need to learn about.
The whole process, it has a lot of continuity to it because from the time you become secretary at NAA, which is when you're first elected, you have 5 years serving on the executive committee before you become the chair. Then that culminates in your year as chair, and then the following year you serve as the immediate past president. So like Alan King was the chair last year, he's the immediate chair, so he's there to support me and help make sure that there's continuity from his reign to mine, and then I'll play that role for Jeanette next year. So you always have a smooth handoff, and you're there to support the next person for a year.
But obviously, the amount of work that goes into this can't be said. There's the co-chairs as well who put on this event. I think we have over 12,000 people this year.
Absolutely.
Want to give them a shout out?
Absolutely. Kayla Quint with Willow Bridge and Lisa Taylor with Gray Star have been phenomenal in acting as the co-chairs this year and working with the great NAA staff to put the event together. And it's just come together with some great speakers with Damon John and Nicole Kidman, and of course this afternoon we have the legend, Coach Nick Saban.
Love it.
And as you said, we've had 12,000 industry professionals here getting educated, networking, and connecting. It's been a phenomenal week here in New Orleans.
I love that. And all this can't happen without the team behind the scenes. Would you want to give them a shout out as well?
Absolutely. As I said, the great NAA staff, and there are many, so too numerous to name here, but all the various departments, from those who work on meetings to those who work on advocacy, and the administrative support staff. It takes a village to put something like this together, and they do a phenomenal job, as you see by just looking around.
And it's incredible, Chris. I think every year they test and try. Clark on the team is always testing and trying. They had the fishbowl set up. They had kind of different styles of panels. Obviously, really interactive stuff on the Expo Trade Hall.
Absolutely.
So cool to see the technology that companies are embracing. Was there anything, maybe a couple things that stood out to you this year that you really enjoyed?
Well, and I will say, we have found over the last couple of years, the fishbowl concept has become enormously popular.
Wow.
And I think we'll continue to expand on that. The trade show is always phenomenal because the supplier community always comes here, and if they have new technology and things to unveil, this is where it usually launches at Apartmentalize. So it's a great opportunity to get through the show and really see what's out there. And when you go back, you have some great ideas of, what do you do to make your properties better? What do you do to make your business more efficient? There's just lots of opportunities here.
I think that's what I've learned is my grandfather taught me nothing beats a handshake more than a contract, especially to establish trust.
Absolutely.
Especially how people, if they follow through on their word. And that's what you get here. You get the relationships, the people, all your five senses. And come on, the food.
The food's fabulous.
The music, the concerts you all did, brilliant move doing that.
Absolutely. It's the perfect of business and pleasure when you get to this event. And again, NAA does a great job of selecting the cities and selecting the venues and making sure they wrap that whole experience into Apartmentalize.
So as we wrap up here, Chris, I want to ask you two important questions. Number one, if someone wasn't able to make it this year, what should they look forward to for next year? And is there any kind of secrets you can let us out of the bag about next year, location or anything else?
The location for next year is going to be announced on the general session this afternoon. I can't give you a spoiler, but I will tell you it'll be much cooler.
Yes.
And the air will be much lighter than it is here in New Orleans.
Okay, that's great. And then number two, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received from someone? Is there something that stands out in your career that you would like to share?
I think the best thing has always been, as I go back to my mentor there earlier, always take the opportunity, accept the challenge, don't back away from it, because with those challenges and opportunities, you're going to have lessons learned, and with those lessons, you're going to be able to grow and move forward.
I love that. And then, something else I think about, we're always in a hurry, everyone's busy, but, I think a lot of that EQ. I think about Dr. Debbie and the impact she has in coaching. Is there something around the way you treat people that you've learned? Any advice there, especially when you're trying to rush places and there's tons of people, that supplier and partner dynamic?
I think the most important thing is it only takes a second to be nice and courteous and recognize people, and I think that goes a long way. Even though you may not have time for a long conversation, if you can say hello and recognize them and give them a quick acknowledgement and minute of your time, that goes a long way.
Well, I'm excited to see you again soon. We're going to be doing the dinner coming up.
Absolutely.
And always appreciate your mentorship, your support, and what you do for our entire community of housing.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
My pleasure.